Oh boy, just when Jack Doohan is wanting a nice, quiet, relaxing build up to his first full season as a Formula 1 driver in 2025, in my opinion, devastating announcement has come out from the Alpine Formula 1 team. Devastating in the sense of Doohan's job security. Not obviously for Alpine, this is a good thing for Alpine, I think, in the sense that they have a very, very good test and reserve driver for this season coming up. Because before this, I believe it was the Estonian driver who races in Formula 2, Paul Aron. There we go. He was the Alpine reserve. It was just announced a little bit ago. But now, the test and reserve driver, officially the third driver as it was, has passed on to Franco Colapinto. So I said quite some time ago that Colapinto will be back in Formula 1, and I'll be surprised if he doesn't come back some way through 2025. And this is the golden ticket. This is the big kahuna, as it were. This is the one where it's like, right, it's happening now. So just to give you guys some backstory on this, obviously Colapinto was the reserve driver for Williams last season, and he came in to replace Logan Sargent midway through the 2024 season. He did a pretty good job, did Colapinto. He scored points, which is something that Sargent couldn't manage in any of his races. Crashed a lot, admittedly, but his raw speed definitely impressed a lot of drivers and a lot of team personnel as well. Red Bull were rumoured to be interested in potentially getting him for a bit, as an RB driver, indirectly replacing Sergio Perez. That never quite came to fruition. And Williams were basically saying, look, we don't mind if we loan him out or if we sell him, potentially, effectively get him out of his contract at Williams, but it's going to cost you a lot. And that rumoured amount was somewhere around $20 million US, which even by Formula 1 team standards is a lot of money, especially when you're talking about Alpine, who are looking to constantly cut every corner they possibly can. Hence why they've been pretty unsuccessful in Formula 1, despite having a huge manufacturer backing them in the form of Renault. Now, Flavio Briatore, this is where he enters the chat. I love Flav, what a guy. This is such a Flavio move, by the way, doing this. Absolutely is. He said on a number of occasions, publicly, that he doesn't mind paying $20 million. Well, his team paying that money. He's not paid it personally. Let's just get that clear. But he said that he didn't mind spending that amount of money on Colapinto to release him out of the contract. Already after Doohan had already signed for next season. Something that I think was probably done immediately after the Monaco Grand Prix, where Esteban Ocon forgot that Pierre Gasly was his teammate and decided to take him out of the race, or try to anyway. Thankfully he failed. But I imagine after Flavio came back into the team in the summer, he was like, man, I don't like this Doohan kid. For whatever reason, it seems as though he doesn't like him. Because he's basically said, and there is also a rumour going around, that Doohan's contract for 2025 is only for 6 races. 5-6 races, some people saying 4. But anyway, a limited number of races, around a quarter of the season, if not less. Now, if that is the case, effectively, that would mean that Alpine don't have to pay off Jack Doohan for the rest of the season if they were to get rid of him. Now, Colapinto is the test and reserve driver. They've spent that much money. You wouldn't spend that amount of money on a guy that you're thinking, I hope he'll be good enough for a Formula 1 race seat, because he's proven himself, in my opinion. He's definitely good enough for an F1 race seat. Not perfect by any means, but hell, he's a rookie. Rookies are going to make mistakes. Rookies are going to crash. So, thinking cynically, you might think that, well, this move was basically a motivation factor for Doohan. This is so that Flavio, and probably with Pierre Gasly to an extent as well, but his seat is safe. Gasly, if anything, is too big for that team. He's too good for Alpine. But it's definitely a motivation thing, or something to really, light the fire under the rear end of Jack Doohan and be like, look, if you mess up, we got this guy to come in. Because before it was Paul Aron. Paul Aron is, you might argue he's good enough for F1. He possibly could be, but we don't know. He's someone who just finished 3rd in F2, 4th in F2, something like that. So, a good driver, worth a shot for sure. But, we know that Colapinto is worth that chance. We've seen what he can do. So, for me, this is a terrible blow to Jack Doohan. And I honest to God think that there's a real chance that if Doohan is a decent ways off of Gasly, which, if I'm being honest, is pretty likely. Not because Doohan's not good enough. He is. I think he is, and I think he'll do a good job. But Pierre Gasly is an absolute animal. That guy in that Alpine car towards the end of the season was arguably one of the best drivers on the grid towards the end of the season. You know, he was pulling off miracles in that thing, which is an absolute bag of bolts. We saw that in Las Vegas when his engine blew up from going too fast. They were like, oh, we can't do speeds like this, and it just decided to disintegrate itself. That's not the sign of a healthy engine. That's why they're going for Mercedes power in 2026. Things like that. Imagine having a Formula 1 engine that can't go fast enough to keep up with your speed. That's just so embarrassing. So you can see why they got rid of the engines. But I just find it shocking. One last point as well. I will say that I'm happy for Colapinto, but I really do feel like this is so disrespectful to Jack Doohan. I really do. I'm all for keeping your options open, but this is such a Red Bull move, this is something Red Bull would do. This is something that Flavio used to do all the time at Renault back in the day. Think about Giancarlo Fisichella and Jarno Trulli. The guy used to love doing stuff like that. He loves playing games. He's just one of them people, man. He just is. For you kids that don't know what Flavio was like back in the day, that man is not to be messed with. He's a nasty piece of work. He really is. But he got results. He did get results. Questionable results, but results. Just look at Crashgate. Did a video on that. Very questionable guy. In sporting context for sure. But yeah, one thing I will mention as well, and this is separate, and this isn't something that Flavio would have done. I think this is something that Flavio was brought in to do, but think about all those people who lost their jobs, or at least have lost their positions. They might well get another job somewhere else in Renault, but hundreds of people at Viry-Châtillon in France, their engine factory, they've all been effectively made redundant, but they're going to get new positions because, you know, France has labour laws that have to protect its workers, unlike here in the UK where they just get rid of you and they don't give a crap. But all those people that lost their jobs effectively, or could lose their jobs because of, you know, the cost-cutting measures. What Flavio was brought in to do was effectively, some people say sell the team. I think definitely to sell the engine department, get rid of that, manage that transition. That was a cost-saving exercise. Alpine have reportedly paid $20 million, which is about 20 million euros for this. It's a bit like when the UK government said they had no money, and then they ended up spending £1 billion convincing another party to support them. You could probably figure out who I'm talking about with that, and it wasn't that long ago. It's that kind of thing. Oh, we've got no money, we can't save your job, but here's some money, let's get a driver. I don't like this. I really don't. I love Colapinto. I really do. I think he's great. I think he's a real talent for the future. Interviewed him a while back. Nice guy. But this just stinks of Flavio Briatore. It really does. But guys, anyway, maybe I'm being a bit cynical about it all. You know, we'll see what happens. But I'm predicting after race 6, we will have Colapinto in that Alpine alongside Pierre Gasly. You don't pay that amount of money on a maybe, on a whim. You do that because you want to bring him in straight away or as soon as possible, and I think that's what they're going to do. Thoughts in the comments below as always, guys. I'm sure the Argentines love this one, and I can see why, but the Aussies are not going to be happy about this. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below as always, of course, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon here on the F1Chronicle.com. Have a good one, guys.